No. I'll just remove that for now. I'll save changes. Okay, are we live? Can we see on? Oh, perfect. We're live right now. Yeah.
Aha.
Done.
All right. So what's the link I shared?
Yep. So just view on LinkedIn. Okay, so we can share on LinkedIn here. That's the LinkedIn. It's the LinkedIn one.
Okay. Yep.
This is the YouTube one. Okay, do you see that in the chat, Rob?
Yeah, one second. Yep. Just posting the LinkedIn one and the YouTube one. Yep, I see the YouTube one. Yep. Let me just copy that. All right. I'll just put it on X as well. All right, got that out.
All right, yeah, beautiful. All the tech issues, and we finally made it.
That's it. Look at that. We're there. Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, it's crazy because like I'm obviously using one piece of software, Rob, and it's going to Instagram, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, and Facebook, right? And
yeah,
like obviously you can tell like maybe in the last 5 years there wouldn't have been any sort of technology like this because of everything that's happened, right? But firstly, how you been?
Mate, very well.
Obviously,
very well.
yeah, you well, I'll love to maybe dive more about Salty Sharks, what you're all about and why you started all of this, as well as just sharing presence too, and just seeing how we can give value to the audience of, transitioning, from Web 2 to Web 3, or even just sharing what the mindset is between the bridge between the two. Because obviously, when we look at Web 3, blockchain, AI, they're all buzzwords, but what does it really mean for the viewers, and especially tying it into the education industry as well? So, firstly, would you like to introduce yourself, Rob?
Yeah, sure.
Just share who you
Absolutely.
are and what is it you do?
Yeah, it's I love the way you mentioned that lead in too, because the buzzwords, it's not just about the buzzwords, it's about use cases, isn't it? It's about how can people
Yes.
integrate this into their lives on a general day-to-day basis. And you mentioned the tech issues that we just had there. Some of the things that we're doing would actually resolve those tech issues, but I'll talk you through that later. But yeah, my name's Rob Kennelly. Thank you, Kanji, for the invitation. Absolute pleasure meeting you a few weeks ago now for the first time and catching up and getting to know you and a bit about what Presence does. I'm based in Queensland, 53. I've had a career of running businesses, from small businesses to multinational businesses, in product development and business development and so forth. So had a very good career. Last role I was in prior to what I'm currently doing now with the Aquatic Metaverse and Salty Sharks is at regional university, where I was a director of business services for that regional university as well. So looked after over $100 million in procurement contracts and various other business services and commercial services at the university offered. So, but I wanted to sort of get back to my roots, I suppose, in a way. I spent a lot of my time in my youth doing a lot of diving. I spent a lot of time in the ocean around different marine species, specifically sharks. I just had a passion for them. And I wanted to get back into something that kind of gave back a little bit more to the world, the planet, and society. So conservation has been something that's close to my heart. And I wanted to sort of give back in that way. So we came up with the concept of utilizing Web3 technology, blockchain, NFTs, that sort of thing, to build a community that could then deliver on education and entertainment that would change the hearts and minds of people around marine species, specifically sharks, but also other species as well. So, and that was sort of 3 years ago now, just coming up on 3 years ago. So, it's incredible how time flies, and the community has grown into a really loving, organic, genuine community of people from literally all over the world, which is just phenomenal. And we're all passionate about the same thing, which is excellent. And we're starting to now deliver on our product suite out to schools and homeschoolers and families, and it's taken off, which is amazing. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to hear what you're doing, Rob, and how you're really inspiring the younger generation to learn more about the oceans, and more about how they can integrate that in their own life based on your passion as well. And I feel as though it's just with anything. It's just like the more that you get to give back, the more people get to see that as well. And I feel like that's really rewarding. And one thing I'd love to maybe hear more about, especially with the recent summits that you've done. Like I think you were in the National Education Summit last weekend, right? How did that all go? That would have been amazing for the students or the kids as well. Like how was the vibe? And I'm guessing for you as well, like you've run a lot of these summits and expos. How do you facilitate all that? Because that would be really good to share as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been fortunate, I suppose, to we probably only went live with our product suite back in April after building for some time, and coincidentally, what we were doing and building got noticed by the Queensland Museum, who were at the time hosting the World Science Festival, which is the largest World Science Festival outside of New York. And they basically offered us an opportunity to showcase what we're doing at that World Science Festival and go on tour with them around, regional Queensland and so forth, and sort of take on the road with them. And I jumped at the chance. It was a great opportunity to get in front of kids and parents and schools. So the platform, I suppose, had a school day and a public day. And yeah, as soon as we started doing that, we noticed, the reaction was overwhelming. Students were loving it. Parents were amazed. Teachers were amazed. It became a bit of a phenomenon in the sense that people kind of saw firsthand the impact and the engagement level increase that came with virtual environment learning. What we put together wasn't just about a game in a virtual environment. It's literally about learning in a virtual environment that's a little gamified. So, it's skewed more towards the learning side than the game side, but it's fun enough as well that it keeps them engaged. But so what it does is it helps them seek out learning. If they become sort of controllers in their education journey, they get to find the information, they get to absorb it at their own pace, and they get to engage with it in that multi-dimensional way. And I think that that's what students nowadays are craving, is that sort of control over their learning. So, and we saw also with the VR capability, the impact it had on special needs children as well. Children who struggle to engage with the normal learning environments, classroom environments. It really opened them up and made them feel really comfortable and safe, and they started to engage at a greater, higher level as well with the content. To the point where, for a homeschool child, it brought their mother to tears when she saw the engagement that her child had whilst they were in that VR environment. And given the fact that she was going to take that, she videoed it and was going to take it to a speech therapist for the child. It just shows that we're at the cusp of some significant breakthroughs in not just education, but also in dealing with special needs people as well. So, and that, sorry, I'm rabbiting on, but that also then led into the National Education Summit, where, because teachers had started to see what we're doing at the World Science Festivals, they then got on, we then got sort of opportunity to showcase at the National Education Summit. And at that point, people had heard of us. People knew what we're doing. They were aware of it. We'd already had schools signing up to the platform, and it became, people started to seek us out and want to know more and want to dive into what we're doing. No pun intended. So, and it was just a huge couple of days. It was fantastic to see. We were there early, setting up every day, and it was almost not early enough for the teachers who were getting there earlier and earlier to come and see us. And I think that's a huge, I suppose, accolade, in the sense that it's a recognition that what we're doing is resonating with them. So,
yeah. With I think the story about the of the mum tearing up, I think you shared it with me before, but things like that are really inspiring, because when you leverage technology like VR, creating a metaverse, and having that as a use case for education and for people to learn through that as well, it really gives you, again, it's just that rewarding factor. And for you as well, you probably would have felt just inspired, and you'd be like, oh, I'm actually doing the right thing, I'm getting the right sentiments. Everything that I've done previously, and all the hard works that I put in the background, behind the scene, that would have all came out and been like, and you probably would have felt emotional about that, going through this whole process. Yeah,
100%.
because
it was both validating and also humbling.
Yeah.
And I had goosebumps, and I get goosebumps every time I tell the story, because it really does resonate. The story got repeated. Obviously, we shared it with the museum. It got repeated all the way up to the highest levels of the Queensland government, because of the impact it had, and the museum loved it, because they're like, well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to engage with their audiences on a daily basis in a way that's similar. So, to the point where the museum now wants us to build a virtual environment of one of their exhibits that they can then make available to regional museums. So that it's just snowballs, at that point. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. One thing you just mentioned is just like that snowball effect of impact and validating the use case, right? Because obviously, the thing with entrepreneurs like yourself and myself, we're always testing and trialing. Like, even jumping on this live, like I was even testing and trialing what the right software is, how do I get it out to people. Obviously, there's a little bit more tinkering. So let's say the next time that we do this, it'll be much easier. It'll be more streamlined. And the same thing with presence, right? Developing the idea where at first it was experience, where we went in, we tested a virtual environment where you can go in, sit down, and meditate, towards more of a social development platform where we're tying social media in a feed, and then now going into the market as a mentorship platform where we connect mentors and individuals like yourself and myself that are wanting to learn. Every single day we're looking at different opportunities and solutions to test. right? So I'd love to maybe ask you, for you, Rob, like obviously, you've been in the game for a while now. What was the like? Does it come natural to you to obviously look behind the scenes in the business and work on certain things that you need to do? What's something that viewers can take away in regards to the mindset to stay on the path? Because entrepreneurship's a tough game, right? There's
Oh,
the behind the
yeah.
scene, right? And then, putting yourself out there. What's something that you'd maybe share on the mindset side of things in regards to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, oh man, it's a challenge. It's it's funny because generally people only ever see the bright side. They only see the success at the end of the day, or they see
Mm,
the accolades that an entrepreneur gets when they achieve an end goal. But the process is hard. It's a grind. You have ups and downs of motivation, and you know you'll suffer setbacks, and you'll have fear of, is this going to be a failure? Am I going to have to start again? Is this going to, and then what are the impacts of that on your family as well? So there's a huge mental issue at play with
mm,
any entrepreneurship plan. But I think the key is having a good network around you, having a good support network, having a good community, having people who know you and can pick you up when you need it. Both as a validation of what you're doing and an endorsement of what you're doing, but also just to pick you up when you're having those down days, because we're all human. We're going to have them.
mhm,
There'll be setbacks. You'll get more no's than you can count on. I mean, I've knocked on doors over these last 3 years that I can't even count, thousands, and I've had both knockbacks, I've had both silence and non-responses, and I've had successes. And obviously, on sort of shows like this, we talk about the successes because they're the ones that people are interested in. We don't talk about the knockbacks, we don't talk about the
yes.
silences, but those things hit home. Those
Mm,
things are an impact to you, and how you deal with those is going to dictate what happens next. Bouncing back
mm,
from that, not taking it on board personally, but treating it as a what's next. Um,
mm,
One, how can I overcome it? Or two, um, is this just a case of it's not for them, but it's still a viable product, service, whatever you're doing? And often that is
mhm,
the case. It's just
mm,
not. It doesn't have to be for everyone. It just has to be for a good target audience. Um, I'll give you a really interesting example. And the important things is being able to pivot, being able to
mm,
go, this isn't working, I need to pivot to this. So back when we first started, or early on in our journey, we created a Minecraft server, and we were going to build that, and we were going to make that our principal platform for delivering a lot of the education content. And
mhm,
it's still a platform that we host and is available, and it's huge. It's got 7 underwater cities and whatever, massive platform. But the people we were working with to make that come to fruition was also a Web3 brand, and Microsoft came along and changed their terms of service under the user license agreement, and basically ripped the rug out from under them and said, there can be nothing to do with blockchain or Web3 on Minecraft, and just said, basically just changed the rules. And that
mm,
ripped the rug out from under us as well, because it changed what we were doing. But
yeah.
what it did was it also provided us an opportunity to pivot. And that pivot led to the platform where we are now and what we're building now, which is proving to be incredibly successful. So you've got to take the hits, but you've got to also be prepared to learn from them, pivot, and continue forward. And I think
Mm,
that's been sort of, I suppose, my strength. I've had my dark days, no question. We've all have self-doubt, and is this going to work? But I was always relentless in the fact that I believed in what I was doing. I believed in the mission. I believed in the purpose, and
mm,
there was a way to achieve that purpose, and I just had to make sure I found that way. So yeah, it's just tough, and I think everyone's experience is a bit different. But ultimately,
mm,
it's about how we handle the knockbacks, how we handle the down
yep,
days, and what support we have around us. You mentioned
mm,
mentors. Mentors are a great example. Mentors are sometimes exactly the people you need to guide you through that process, to give you that pickup, to get you back on track, to make sure you stay on track. Sometimes mentors are an underutilized and underrated tool to keep people on track and stop great ideas from not getting to fruition.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a lot of really good points in what you just said. First things first is networking, right? Like with mentors, with networks, with connections, you're always one connection away from changing your life, right? And when you are connected with a mentor who's already doing what you want to do, you come to a point where your life actually exponentially grows because you're starting to learn certain habits and values. And obviously, you would be only be working with a mentor that you resonate with in regards to values and beliefs, right? And the thing is that if you have a really good network, even in those days where you're behind the scenes, it feels tough, you've got no one to really bounce off with, they become your treadmill friends. This is a really cool concept that I saw the other day. You've got your couch friends, the people that will hang around you in the good times, and you're having a party, or just want a good time. But then there's also your treadmill friends, the people that are running the treadmill with you, right? Going to the gym with you, in the trenches, building an idea. And the thing that you shared as well was like, without with everything that's around us, it's that continuation and that purpose. And I feel as though until you actually find what that is for you, it's kind of hard to not be wavered by the path, like the things like self-doubt, feeling as though you're good enough, or getting the no's, rejection, all of that, unless you know what that why is. So maybe I'll ask you, Rob, well, how did you come about that why? Like, did it come through the repetition of the building of the business? Did it come from a moment where you just felt like I know I'm meant for more? What was that moment where you're just like, oh, like I'm starting to discover what this why is?
I think for me, it's about giving back and making a difference in society that's beyond my circle, my network, my family, whatever. It's about doing something back for the world at large. Our planet that we live on, and I've got 2 young daughters, and I want the planet and the world that they grow up in to be one of opportunity and success and happiness. And the world we have is very fragile, and it's arguably at a tipping point. And we need to do more to protect our world, and the ocean is a key part of that. Between 50 and 70% of the world's oxygen supply comes from the ocean. So no matter where you are on the planet, doesn't you have to be at a coast. I'm currently living on top of a mountain, in Queensland, but no matter where you are, you're impacted by that simple statistic, is that we need oxygen. And if the ocean ecosystem collapses or changes significantly, and we see a drop in that oxygen creation, we're in trouble. And a key part of that ocean ecosystem is marine life as well, and how they interact with each other. And that balance that exists is critically important as well. So you take that balance and you look at different marine species that are currently endangered or threatened or critically endangered, and you think, well, we need to do more to protect them. But then the problem with that is that they're not sexy, and they're not close by, and they're not in our frame of reference, and we haven't done a good job as society of making them relatable. So the key to conservation is education, but the key to education is making something relatable, making something that people want to understand and get to know better. So if you follow that train of logic back and far enough, you get to the point where, well, you need to create a story. You need to create a reason for people to connect with that particular species. And what we did, and I'm a published author as well. I've written fiction novels and published those, and I like to tell stories. So I'm like, right, well, I love to tell stories. I love the ocean. I love the marine species. How can I combine these together in a way that changes people's perception on these species? And so to do that, I created a multiverse story around sharks and mermaids, and then other marine species are introduced into it, and it becomes an adventure story where people connect their hearts to the creatures. They can relate. We're creating humanized, in a way, species that they can relate to, and instead of being, we're reframing them from villains to heroes, and that everyone wants to, barrack for the hero. Everyone wants the hero to succeed. Everyone feels that connection to the hero. So doing it that way means that they're going to start to feel a sense of connection to the species, and in particular, obviously sharks in this case, but also other species. And then, without even realizing they're doing it, they will work to conserve those creatures because they'll be passionate about it. You look at tigers and lions and rhinos and so forth, and people have already a connection with them, and people have done a really good job of turning them into heroes. Even though they're alpha predators, much like sharks are. But in the mainstream media, sharks are vilified. Whenever you hear a story about sharks, they're always shark attack. It's not just a bite, it's shark attack. Shark-infested waters, even though it's just their home. Things like that, and the negative phraseology is what causes fear. And then the fear causes people to do things they shouldn't, overhunt, kill sharks, stay away from them, fear them, don't want to protect them because you're afraid. Whereas if they start to understand them better, they'll start to understand that actually the shark's not the bad guy. And maybe the shark is doing something really important in our ecosystem and should be championed as a hero. So this is how you connect with the younger audience, and this is how you engage them in the story. As I said, I got 2 young girls, and they love sharks now. And they don't love sharks because they've had any interactions with them. They love them because they're characters. They're characters in a story that they can relate to. And all of a sudden they feel that connection, and that connection will lead to conservation. So yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful insight. Like when you mentioned the 50 to 70%, right? Straight away I was like, oh, that's a huge number, right? And I wasn't educated of that. Obviously, I've learned all of this back when I was like in primary school. But because of that stat that you've told me, and then the relatability of that with ocean and oxygen, I'm like, oh, now I see that there's awareness that I need to spend to help that. Right. And then you tying in the story of the multiverse, sharks, etc. Now you can make it even more of a relatable story, right, to the kids and the next generation. So I definitely feel that, and it's beautiful you sharing the storytelling element behind it, because like a lot of the time, like just with anything, right, everything's a brand, right? And if we don't brand that, people start to brand you. Now, whether it's mainstream media, and I have my thoughts about mainstream media, right? Like, obviously they tend to instill fear in society. And, for us, we're generally doing some really good things, like, educating people on, what abundance is, the different ways of doing things, how actually good it actually is, that we start to brand that, and change the narrative. And I love what you're doing, Rob, because like that's also changing the narrative of the ocean, right? Changing the narrative, like actually we need this, right? And if we don't actually go into this, like there's nothing there for us in the future. And we're creating a better world. And I feel as though, like with anything, that's the narrative that is there, and it's always been there. It's just that we're not aware about it. So it's just the same thing with the stat, right? And I love to hear, obviously the story and everything that you share with everyone. But for you, like how has it been through this whole process to create that brand, to create that story? Has it been a like because obviously when you're creating stories, and humans are very good at telling stories. I think we've been telling stories since ages ago, right? And that's why we've evolved to this place now, because we're able to tell those stories. But for you, like how has that process been? Like has it been easy to change the minds of people? Has it been enlightening? How's that been for you?
Yeah, look, I think it hasn't been that bad. I suppose I don't find that side to be the challenge for me. That side comes natural
Yep.
for me. So,
Yep.
you know, obviously, I think I understand, and I think you understand as well from what you just said there, that education is derived from storytelling. You know, if you go back far enough, that's how we shared education, shared knowledge about things, is through stories.
Mm.
And I think that we inherently, and children especially, they connect really well to stories because it sparks their imagination, and then it seems to sit in their minds longer, and the retention's there. So storytelling is a huge part of that learning curve for them. And if you can deliver that in a fun way through games and environments and stuff that they enjoy, it just increases that engagement and retention. So for me, creating the story was always fairly straightforward and easy enough to do, because I love telling stories and I love, you know, entertaining people in that regard. But the challenging part for me has always been around how to get that word out, how to spread the word, how to get people aware of it. Creating the brand, creating the stories, creating the purpose and mission was easy. Well, easier. Getting it out there in front of people was the hard part. And you know, it's funny, like we got a school came on board our platform last week, well, a week before last. No, last week. Sorry, last week. And they love what we're doing. And it's funny because I never really spoke to them previously. It was, they just heard about us and they looked into us and they love what we're doing. And so they were like, you know, we want to teach this to our students. And they're a prestigious girls' school in Brisbane, and you know, really sort of well regarded and well sought after as a school. Anyway, so it's Science Week this week as well. So they're teaching them all about science. And so like, well, can you come? And they asked me to come and present to their student body, which is tomorrow, about what we're doing, you know, education and conservation and the marine species, and obviously also the platform, the exhibits that they can get in, they can join. And I said, yeah, absolutely, happy to, love it. And so they've spent the entire week leading up to tomorrow, when we're going to be presenting, promoting this to their kids, you know, getting the students to, you know, look at what we're doing and get involved and understand. And, you know, even to the point where the staff are wearing our merchandise around the school to promote awareness of this platform and what we're doing. And that's just phenomenal, you know, like that's huge, because as these kids start talking about it to their friends and others, you know, it grows. It just exponentially grows, which is dealing with the one challenge that we've always had, and is that getting the word out. And then we got another school that contacted us earlier in the week, and they do an after school STEM program for students who want to do more study in STEM related subjects. And it's an after school for an hour, you know, 1 day a week, an hour a week. Anyway, they couldn't get their STEM provider to do this term, which runs for 4 or 7 weeks, depends on the term. And anyway, they asked us if we would teach a class for their students on how to build their own virtual environments. So, which again is, you know, a great sort of recognition of what we're building and what we're delivering. So, you know, in 2 weeks' time, I'm about to start a course for students after school at their school to teach them on how to build their own virtual environments, akin to what we've done with the education one. So, yeah, I guess that is how the word grows. You know, that's that word of mouth piece. I think that's that reputation piece, the brand piece, where people go, I'm recognizing this name, Shelty Sharks. I know what you're doing. I know what you're about. And you're able to deliver this content to students, and they know that the content we're delivering is engaging. And I haven't really even spoken to them about the story and that. I want them to find that organically. You know, I want them to start finding those things themselves, and then they'll get into it more, and then they'll share that with others. So
yeah, that's beautiful, Rob. Yeah. One thing you really highlighted is just like, it's just branding 101. It's just like getting people to talk about the brand, getting them involved, building that community, right? And I feel as though with anything, if you build that community first, everything else starts to trickle down. Like they'll start sharing the stories with others. The kids will start talking to the other kids. They look into it and they see that it's fun. Then they'll connect with other people who also see it as fun. And that's what building a brand or building a community really comes from. It really comes from the fun aspect. And I feel like a lot of the time we forget that, especially in the professional setting, is like, where's the fun in this?
Mm.
Right? But if you're able to make it inspiring, make it fun, make it exciting, make it something that is, obviously making the world a better place,
Yeah.
people start to resonate with that. And yeah, like we can see it firsthand with Salty Sharks, right? And the metaverse, and seeing how that's being influenced in the next generation too. Um, so yeah, like it's really awesome to hear and the amazing things that you're doing, Rob. Maybe we'll start to close off, and I'll ask you this question: what's next? What's next for Salty Sharks? What's next for you? What are you really excited about over the next few months?
Um, I guess what's next for us is continuing to expand out the school platform, to get more schools on board and utilizing the product. We've got a really good relationship with the host providers of the platform we're using, which is Spatial, and I've had some great conversations with them, and they're really keen to see what we are able to produce and drive in terms of the education space, because it also helps them with what they're building. So for us, it's just about getting more schools on board, getting more training, education out there, more content, building more environments.
Mm,
It takes time to get into the school networks. It takes, it's not an overnight thing. It takes them weeks, semesters, just to do their own vetting, make sure it's all comfortable for what they're doing, tie it to their
mm,
curriculums, work out how to
mhm,
implement it. So it takes time, and these things are part of our focus. But also, um, I think that it's about connecting with others like yourself, and also making what we do and our platforms available for others. And I want to circle back a little bit here to the start. When we had
yep.
a brief technical issues and so forth. And one of the things, one of the options, one of the things you can do when you host events like this is you can actually host them in the metaverse. You can
Mm,
host them in an auditorium setting in one of our virtual environments, and audience members don't necessarily have to join a stream. They can actually join as a guest the environment, and it's just a web
mm,
page, and they can load in as a guest, and they're there, and so they can be part
mm,
of that, experience in a very streamlined way from a technology standpoint. You can then record that and make it available as a recording later as well. So there's a few things that can be done in that way to help, I suppose, others do what they're doing. Um, you know, Web3 has to be in, again, circles back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Web3 needs to, in my opinion, needs to provide
mm,
Web2 a use case. We need to
yep.
provide people in Web2 world a reason to utilize and get involved in it. And I think that
Mm,
giving them access to resources like we're building will give them that use case, will give them a reason to get involved. And then, like anything else,
mm,
like the students, they'll start to explore what else is available. They'll start to explore the boundaries. They'll start to feel comfortable stepping beyond that initial entry point.
mm.
And that is how we onboard people to Web3.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely, maybe for our next interview we can do it in the metaverse, and then share the link with everyone. That would be a very different experience for the viewers as well. Because like obviously you've got the traditional live stream like this, but then what happens when we're all in the same space, experiencing the same things, sharing stories, sharing experiences, and yeah, that's something that we can play around with. But I want to just touch on the Web3 element, like. I was in Malaysia recently, and like the buzzword of or even the use cases of AI, people don't understand that. People don't understand how you can actually use in blockchain, how they could actually use that in the metaverse. And again, it comes from what you mentioned throughout this whole talk is education. A lot of the time they see blockchain, they see crypto, oh, it's a scam, right? They see this, they have an association with it. But our role as someone that's a pioneer in Web3, pioneer in the use cases, is to educate people on what that actually means, the technology behind blockchain, the technology behind the metaverse, and allowing people to realize like the technology, if we put it into the right use cases or use cases that create a better world, what happens, right? And it's all a tool. I was delivering a workshop last week and on business development with AI, right? And pretty much the whole gist of the whole workshop is that AI is a tool. How you use it is depending on how resourceful you are and whether or not it will help you in your business. And you don't have to use it too. You don't have to use AI if it's too complicated. If it is too complicated, you might get someone who's more technical to implement that in your business. And it's the same thing, right? So yeah, I would say like, with everything, it's just like, how do we use the technologies to further the vision, to further the inspiration, to get the word out there, just like you said, and really just get it out there more. Like just realize like, oh, there's so much more that's out there, but educating people along the way. And I feel like that's the most rewarding part, is to be able to share that knowledge with people that don't know that much about Web3, Web2, AI, blockchain, and even just what we're doing in regards to our purpose and mission as well, Rob. So, is there
100%
any
agree with
final
you.
words? Yeah, is there
No,
any
look,
final
I think
words? Or
I just love what you're doing. I just, yeah, to me, that what you just talked about there is just, it's just so important and so vital.
Mm,
People, it's all good and well for people to have an AI platform or an AI
yep,
tool. And yes, they're fantastic and they do wonderful things. But most people would look at that and go,
mm,
I don't know how to use that. Or
mm,
what do I use it for? Or how is that going to make my life any easier or better?
yep,
Or I'm too afraid that it's going to take my job without realizing that it's not. And a lot of that is, the ability for you to educate people on how they can take a tool like AI and make their lives better or
mm,
simpler or their work easier or whatever it might be. That's bridging the gap, because I feel like all people are too busy focused on creating this wonderful tech, but they're not
yep,
focused on that bridging that gap of user case to the tech. It's all going to well to have the tech. Most early adopters go, yeah, fantastic, I've got it all figured out, I know what I'm doing.
mm,
But the majority of people where your customers are, um,
yes,
don't have that link. And you've got to, if you can provide that link between the technology and how it's going to make their life better, mate, you've hit the holy grail.
hmm,
And that's what I love about what you're doing. So yeah, mate, more power to you. It's absolutely fantastic.
yep, yep, 100%. Where can people find yourself, Salty Sharks? Yeah, do you like to maybe just share like your social links and that with
Sure.
everyone?
Yeah, easiest way to find us is www.saltysharks.io and then /the-saltyverse. And that's going to take them direct to our education platform to find that. Either that, you can look up Aquatic Metaverse on Facebook or Instagram, or Salty Sharks as well. Both work. So it should be easy to find. There's not too many of us on Google, so we'll probably be up there in the Google searches. But yeah, that's how to find us. You can look up me personally on LinkedIn as well, although you'll also find Aquatic Metaverse on LinkedIn too. So, but yeah, feel free to check us out and reach out if we can be of some assistance.
Yep. Feel free to check Rob out, guys. Yeah, my name's Kenji Low, and yeah, we've just created this beautiful live AMA. Obviously, this will evolve into something beautiful, and we're going to be talking about things in the metaverse as well, Rob. So find myself on obviously presence.io. That's on Instagram, and on X would be presence_io. You can connect with myself on LinkedIn too, and Facebook under Kenji Low. And yeah, it's been beautiful having you here, Rob. Just hearing more about your story, more about what you do, and how you're inspiring others as well. And maybe one thing we'll get you to do is maybe just share a piece of advice or something to inspire people who are watching this, what would you want to share?
And I just think for me, never give up. Never stop striving for what you want to achieve. Failure never comes from trying. Failure comes from giving up. So you're never a failure as long as you never give up. You just have to keep going and keep working on it and keep trying, and then you'll succeed. You'll have stumbles along the way, but you will succeed. You just got to make sure you never give up.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you,
thank you to
Kenji.
everyone that's watching. And yeah, we'll touch base and catch you in the next one.
Look forward to it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kenji. Bye.